One thing notable about Toriyama's style is his focus on opposites in conflict with each other to drive the plot. This can be through things such as contrasting personalities interacting for comedic effect during the gag portions of Dragon Ball, or the opposing ideologies in combat during its more battle-focused era. Though this has been done since the beginning with things such as the innocent boy attuned with nature that is Son Goku, interacting with the arrogant beauty of technological civilization Buruma, or how the Kinto-un segment highlights the impurity of both the young Buruma and the old Kame Sennin. It is in the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai arc that its role as a major theme for the storytelling fully comes to light through the tournament's main matches. Even before that, during its Shugyo segment, it is on full display with the two personalities of lunch, or Kuririn's trickery contrasting with Goku's earnest nature, in which Kuririn's actions are punished for not being in line with the right-mindedness that is Shugyo entails. That said, many unfamiliar with the series' original Japanese dialogue may be confused about what Shugyo is, and those that are familiar with it may not realize how quintessential it is for the manga's narrative. Shugyo is a term that roughly means austere training, and what most English translations reduce to simply training. If you view the progression of the character's ki as merely training though, it shows how shallow the term becomes when simplified for international audiences. Shugyo refers to a specific type of training that both acts as a vocation and helps build one's character, that can be applied every bit as much to artisan or priestly occupations as it can to martial arts, rather than simply being the acquisition of strength. Those looking at the franchise and concept from a modern Western mindset may mistakenly believe. One spelling of Shugyo implies one taking a discipleship under a master to hone their craft, and the master become the spiritual father to them, whereas another focuses more so on the idea of improvement through diligence, much as Mutenroshi becomes a father figure to both Goku and Kuririn on the start of their Shugyo journey in the story, through his method of perfecting the basics through unassuming methods. Shugyo principles originate from both Buddhist and Taoist beliefs of following the path of gradual enlightenment, of which Dragon Ball takes in the martial art application of Shugyo. The original manga's Shugyo mainly comes in the form of what the Chinese would call Zhanwu, gradual enlightenment, and occasionally Dunwu, sudden enlightenment. As an example, the Shugyo methods of Mutenroshi or Karin clearly display Zhanwu through gradually having Goku temper his skills, whereas Gohan's transformation into Super Saiyan 2 against Cell is an excellent display of Dunwu, with it coming through 16 making it clear that letting go of his fears of letting his rage overtake him is necessary in protecting what he values. The principles of enlightenment through tempering one's skill and character is where many Budo principles, such as the Bushido of the samurai, originate from. In the martial arts narrative, Shugyo becomes the improvement and gradual enlightenment of one's character through greater levels of difficulty, which is why each arc of Dragon Ball not only feature ever stronger enemies as a constant, but as a necessity in allowing its characters to improve both externally and internally. These ideas become the driving motivation for Goku's character from here on. Beyond some exceptions of enemies to have personally wronged him, such as Tambourine or Frieza, Goku strives for self-improvement on his Shugyo journey, as we see with things such as him sparing Vegeta or his desire for a rematch with Buu, when incapable of besting either on his own, with him saving anything from a single life to the whole universe being more a result of happenstance or necessity, rather than something he goes out of his way to do, like with most Western superheroes, of which Vegeta makes plainly clear during his iconic number 1 speech. This is a display of the concept of uwe, or action through inaction, in solving injustices that cross your path, but not going out of your way to change the world and instead focusing on your internal improvement, and improving those around you as a secondary effect, as Goku comes to do. For a surprisingly great display of this in Western media, the Futurama episode Godfellas displays aspects of uwe combined with theological discussion on what is required of God.
When you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all.
One of the great things about Toriyama's style is in simplifying the complexities of Shugyo principles through their impact on narrative and have them be displayed through their interactions and opposition of characters on their path to spiritual ascension. This is where the matches within the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai come into play. Each of the matches are intentionally crafted for the characters to contrast each other. The giant, unrefined wrestler, Bacterian, uses a stenched or nervous opponent, and is pitted against the small Shaolin, Kuririn, who lacks a nose and overcomes and defeats them with even greater stench, in one of the series' wackiest fights. Yamcha vs Jackie Chun is one of youth against age, in which the youthful and seemingly strong Yamcha is shown to be weak and inexperienced, compared to the truly strong Jackie's experience and skill, in the display of the time and effort it takes in crafting a Shugyo mindset. Namu vs Lanfan is one of the spiritual discipline against seduction, with the Buddhist Namu having to overcome the base desires he still has, and ignore the physical in order to defeat Lanfan's allure. Goku vs Giran is perhaps the most ironic of these, in Goku being innocent and honest as well as unassuming in his stature, but having great strength on his own, and a kaiju, that is the Ozaru, lurking as his hidden in or id. Meanwhile, Giran seems to be an intimidating kaiju of brute force at first glance, but mainly proves a challenge through trickery and unconventional abilities, and immediately surrenders in fear when faced with the greater monster that is Goku's strength. The semi-finals give us Kuririn vs Jackie Chun as student versus master in a true test of the former's progress in his Shugyo, in which Kuririn proves how much he still needs to grow. Though his inferior performance to Goku soon after can be of course attributed to the latter's natural attunement to Shugyo principles from his upbringing and the later genetic reveals, it can be attributed just as much to their difference in mindset. Goku fully accepts the Shugyo and Uwe principles Muten Roshi instilled in him in fighting to improve himself rather than purely to win, with the unwavering mindset that was necessary for them to overcome the Shugyo their master put them through. Meanwhile, Kuririn being overpowered causes his feelings of self-doubt to return as he seeks advice from Goku on how to win. Anyone familiar with Toriyama's interviews in the Super Exciting Guide or Shozenshu will know that the ki which brings characters in the series far beyond their physical limits are comprised of Genki, vitality, Yuki, courage, and Shoki, right-mindedness, with the growth of their ki ultimately being the combined refinement of all three. As such, not having the same Shoki as Goku would have played a major part in Kuririn's ki Shugyo being stunted by comparison, and his loss to his disguised master. We also see some level of symmetry in the match too, with Kuririn luring Jackie into dropping his guard by throwing some panties at him, and using the character flaw of perverting this both share to his advantage, as well as displaying a hidden weapon through trickery, much as Jackie Chun displays hidden techniques. More on ideas of symmetry soon though. Namu vs Goku is one of the more subtle cases of opposites. Namu's Tenku Pekejiken can be broken down as Heaven's Sky X mark fist, with the Peke referring to the cross of incorrectness on exam papers in Japan, and implying that the technique is a mark against incorrection by heaven itself. Combined with Namu's clearly Buddhist ideals, it serves as a callback to Goku's character origins, with it being like Sun Wukong within the Buddha's palm. The difference here though is that the monkey overcomes the follower of Buddha's teachings, as Namu is unchanging in his strategy when it fails, and attempts the same thing again at a higher level, whereas Goku adapts as to not have it work on him twice. There's also a difference in motivation, with Namu fighting purely for those of his village, as opposed to Goku's more Uwe mindset. Though the former seems more noble, it is only after losing that Namu is enlightened by Muten Roshi on how easy it is to get the water he needs that Namu was unaware of in not taking into account the cultural and economic difference between his village and Papaya Island, with his desire being fulfilled through more Uwe methods. The final of the Tenkaichi Budokai is both the necessary end goal of these opposites in conflict and Toriyama's love of flipping things on their head. With a particular focus on opposites, what could be the ultimate opposite of opposites, like Symmetry? It is because of this that Goku vs Jackie Chun is ultimately a match of copying and matching each other as expected of the Monkey Boy, with Goku matching his Kamehameha, getting one up on his master's Zanzoken with his own, and answering the deceptive nature of the Suiken with his false madness in the Kyoken and Saruken, before their match concludes with both having used up all their secret techniques and stamina and opting for facing each other body against body in one of the closest matches of the series. This fits amazingly well when considering how wholeheartedly Goku took Muten Roshi's Shugyo teachings to the point of living more by them than his master. There's also the opposite of expectations in a narrative sense with Goku losing the match. When it came to more superpower shonen manga of the 80s, such as Rin ni Kakero or Kinnikuman, having the protagonist win the tournament was practically a necessity. So going against audience expectations was a more bold move than those more familiar with the shonen works to come after the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai may be aware of. This, along with the opposite of opposites, also highlights an aspect of Dragon Ball that has become overlooked, as well as an inevitability with the subversion trend of modern media. It would be inaccurate to say Dragon Ball itself was a trendsetter, as series such as Kinnikuman were what founded many shonen tropes. It's the unique spin or change in expectations for them that Dragon Ball performed though, which not only allowed it to rise in popularity, but provide an issue to those inspired by it which didn't deviate far enough from the formula or understand Toriyama's style. Constant subversion of expectations will lead to the only way to subvert things further being to return to the original formula with the status quo. The only path for those emulating it is to either copy what it has done, return to the prior formula with little gained for the demographic, or, the best option, to add a new spin to inspirational ideas from it, much as Goku did with Jackie Chun's techniques. Next time, moving into the Red Ribbon Army arc, we will focus on a character who holds an overarching presence on the series, despite his limited appearance.